Lockdown fever. In March 2020, the world went into lockdown because of the pandemic. Jack and Hannah, a British man and woman in a relationship, were travelling to Colombia for the Save the Children charity by building wells for clean water. This was just before the world went into the first lockdown. Arriving at the airport, the young couple were oblivious to the ever-changing situation. The news spoke of an outbreak, but it was in Asia, nowhere near South America. "Do you think the outbreak will come here?" Hannah said. "I think we're going to be fine. Don't worry," Jack replied. He could not have been any more naive. The couple didn't know that the world was going to shut down. As they were volunteers for a charity that would help people, that was their only motive when they took their flight from the UK and came to Colombia. Helping children was their passion. But when they learned about the pandemic, the uncertainty made them think twice. Even though the subterranean part of themselves wanted to go back to their home country, the couple decided to stay, looking at the condition of the children. The charity they worked for sent them to a local town called Salento. This is where the charity had rented apartments for all the volunteers. A small community that was in despair, but the people were nice. It was in February as they boarded an old dirty bus that was taking them to the outskirts of town. The place the couple stayed in wasn't the most sanitary, yet it was still comfortable to live in for some weeks, all the while remembering the reason why they had come to help. All these endeavours were good until March. Then the first lockdown emerged. Salento was a small village. It had been devastated by drought, and the building of wells was going to greatly improve the area. The humble apartment was joined together with some wooden huts. In the middle of it was a courtyard. It wasn't long after the news broke. Airports closed, no travel, and people were told to lock themselves inside to stop the spread of the virus. It was shocking. Everything had shut down so quickly. There was no time to plan. Still, the young couple felt glad that the apartment they lived in had an extra room. But after a week of lockdown, the charity they worked for had requested them to help accommodate a stranger called Daniel. He was a lanky man in his early 20s. He spoke broken English and helped the couple whenever he could, but he stayed in his room most of the time. The reason why Jack and Hannah decided to give Daniel their extra room was that space was limited, and it was during hard times that you should help people when you can. The first week with Daniel was okay, until things began to turn weird. That night, Jack woke up to hear random shouting. He headed to Daniel's room, thinking someone had broken into the house. But when he looked, it was clear he was just having nightmares. It was strange. Daniel was talking with himself, and this baffled Jack. "I swear, I didn't kill that girl," Daniel spoke intensely in his sleep. "I swear to you, I won't go. I'm loyal." Jack could see that he was sweating profusely. It meant that he had a high fever. He immediately went and told his wife that they should stay away from him. For the next couple of days, Daniel didn't come out of his room. He did converse with the couple from behind the door. They assisted him with basic amenities, thinking that he had gotten the COVID-19 virus. Yet when it came to his nightmares, he didn't stop, and he was getting sicker. Neighbours began complaining to the couple. What could they do? It was as if Daniel was going crazy. During the third week of March, someone approached Jack from the apartment next door. "Hey buddy," that person said from the window. Jack was quick to hear, continued, "I think the stranger in your apartment has got lockdown fever. Everyone knows about it from the radio. Why don't you call the hospital?" Thinking it was a good idea to help him. Even though he agreed with him to save face, he was not so sure. He told Hannah too, and agreed to wait for now. There were other problems to deal with: food rations, medication, and no internet. Hence it was difficult to get the current information, because there was only a small radio for news. The radio didn't work properly, which was a pain. But as the couple began hearing more complaints from the neighbours, they couldn't resist, but called the hospital. Wi-Fi was non-existent, but luckily there was a payphone outside. Everyone had 30 minutes to exercise, so they could walk outside alone at midday, and that was the only way to do it. The curfew was in effect for the rest of the time. Soon after the call, the ambulance was fast to arrive. But the person that came to check on Daniel didn't look like a doctor or even a nurse. He was military, in a full hazmat suit. With him was another individual. They took Daniel by the arms and legs without any care or compassion. As they forced him out, they stopped in the living room for a second. The person holding the leg spoke. "He hasn't got lockdown fever. He is sick because he's a drug addict. But don't worry, we'll take care of him now." A few days later, Daniel had returned and seemed more like his old self. He didn't have any fever and had recovered. That's how it seemed, until one day he wasn't there in his room anymore. Somebody reported that Daniel might have gone out the window that night. Going out during the lockdown wasn't safe, as the military was shooting infected people. Well, that was what somebody said, but no one really believed it. Wanted by the government now, Daniel was a fugitive, and it was up to them to find him. The next day, Jack woke up early and was looking outside his window. From a nearby side road, he saw somebody running. It was clear that it was Daniel, and a police vehicle was chasing him, speeding behind. Before he could reach the neighborhood square, there was a loud bang, and Daniel was shot in the back. He screamed and collapsed. His blood sprayed all over the foundations of the new well in the square. The military police were laughing as they jumped out of the vehicle, lifting his body like they had shot a deer or something. After that, Jack was horrified beyond terror. The rumors were true. He saw the policemen dump Daniel's corpse in the middle of Salento Square, along with 2 more bodies from their truck. Telling the crowd to stay back, they poured kerosene over them and lit the flames. The locals looked up at Jack, pointing at his apartment. It was clear to him that he was being blamed for reporting Daniel. After some shouting, the crowd dispersed, and panicked people were in disbelief as they returned to their homes. It was silly that some people wanted to blame the couple instead of the military, whose actions were beyond reproach. It meant the government were killing anyone who was sick instead of helping. This was a very dangerous place now. Hannah had frozen in the room as the events unfolded. Lost in her mind, she hugged Jack. It was then she whispered, "We need to get out of this country." He was quick to agree with her. So they packed their bags and waited for nightfall. The guards on every corner were not particularly good at security. They managed to sneak past and took the old dirt road to the train station. It was here they stopped for a moment to look at the map. Suddenly a couple of lights were in the distance. It was 2 motorcycles approaching. The couple hid in the bushes as the lights passed. Jack noticed the first person was his neighbor from the window. It was him who said to call the police in the first instance. Of course, no one knew what the government was doing. Jack and Hannah were being hunted by vigilantes, hell-bent on revenge. Shocked and disturbed, they stayed there in silence until it was safe. As dawn broke, it was time to go. It was so dangerous, but they had no option. The military or the angry vigilantes would kill them without any hesitation or remorse. From the main road, there was a small side road. They followed that to the train station. Moving discreetly so as to not be seen, they hid in an outbuilding across from the platform. The station was not open to the public. It was closed by the army, and only supplies were being transported. After waiting a few hours, a supply train approached. This was their only chance. So the couple creeped outside and ran beside the train as it slowed down. They grabbed the ladder and climbed inside. It was a coal train. They lay low, hiding in the corner of the dirty carriage. After a while, with a sudden jolt, it began moving again. All morning, they hugged each other until the next night, bravely peeking outside to observe the signs. It was a relief to discover they were in Venezuela. The couple had to bribe the security guards to let them pass. From there, it was a few miles walk to the British embassy. And after giving a statement about what had happened, they were overwhelmed to be safe once again. The staff at the embassy didn't seem so surprised by what they had said. "We had similar reports," the consular said. Shortly after they arranged for them to get home safely, Jack and Hannah were still scared for their friends in Colombia. No news had come, and the country denied everything and was not accepting the allegations. They were quick to report again that they had witnessed once back in the UK, but the Colombian government was adamant in responding that no such things were done, labeling it only as fake news. The couple never heard from anyone they met in Salento. 3 years later, they reside in North London with their daughter, and after the events in South America, decided to not volunteer abroad ever again. The end.